Good morning and welcome to episode 19 of a Disney Live podcast. My name is Rachel and I'm joined here by my co host, Missy. Hi, Missy.
Hi, Rachel. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm a little sleepy, honestly. I just got back from a little weekend getaway at the Jersey Shore. The weather was gorgeous down there. We decided to try to get away for the day. And of course, as I laid there basking in the sun, I did nothing but think about planning future Disney trips. So I am
Nice.
here ready to go this morning after a relaxing weekend away, but
Okay.
I'm sleepy.
I'm going to try to get the images of early 2000s MTV out of my head right now.
It is not, that is not our Jersey Shore. No, we go a little south of there to a beautiful island called Long Beach Island. It is almost all residential with no chain stores or any mega stores like that on the island. It's all mom and pop locations, very family friendly. And that has been our go to place for many years when
That
we want
sounds
to
wonderful.
relax or fish. So, yeah, it was not the Jersey Shore of the MTV
Yeah.
days. That is
Good.
not us.
It's good to know. All right. Well, today we are joined by our special guest and a friend of ours, Nicole. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad that you're here. So, Nicole just recently returned from a long weekend at Walt Disney World, and she's going to be sharing her experience with us today. This is also going to include a report on the brand new Beak and Barrel located at Magic Kingdom. Plus, we're going to be going over our top 5 multi generational activities at Walt Disney World. We have a question about celebrations, and Missy is going to be closing us out with our tip for the week. All right, so as I mentioned, we have Nicole here joining us today to talk about her most recent trip to Walt Disney World. But first, Nicole, can you tell us and our listeners a little bit about your Disney travel experiences in the past?
So I grew up going to Walt Disney World, grew up on the East Coast. So we went often when I was a kid into adulthood. And now I travel there often with my own kids, which is really fun. So Disney is definitely a part of our life and our world.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I know that you are still on the East Coast, but you're a little bit further away from Walt Disney World now. So it seems like long weekend trips have kind of been something that you've taken part of quite a bit in the past, at least since we've known each other. So walk us through. So where did you stay on this trip?
I went just with my husband. We actually went this time without our kids. We like to do that every once in a while, have like an adults only trip, a little bit of a different experience. So we stayed at Wilderness Lodge this time for 4 nights for a long weekend.
Nice.
That is a nice long weekend. And you and your husband are annual pass holders, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it makes it a little more accessible for you to get down there without having to think of the burden of the ticket cost since you have that covered, and that certainly allows you to be able to go. I would imagine a little more guilt-free leaving the kids at home because they have their chance throughout the year too.
Exactly. And we go with them at least once or twice a year too. So they definitely have their turn, but it's nice to have the trips where we get to go just the two of us.
Excellent. I'm a supporter of that.
Yeah, Wilderness Lodge gets a lot of love from us on this show. So we love Wilderness Lodge and excellent choice. All right. So walk us through. So your day one, what did you do?
Yeah, day one. So it was a Thursday. We flew down very early in the morning because we wanted to make sure we had a chance to spend some time in the parks when we arrived. So we did leave home on the earlier side. I think by the time we landed and got our bags and made it to Wilderness, it was about 9:30. It was still pretty early in the day. Obviously, at 9:30, our room wasn't ready yet, so we did just leave our bags with Bell Services. We were kind of already had a plan, so I had my park bag ready to go. Just grabbed that out of my luggage, and we caught a bus to the Magic Kingdom right away. And we were probably in the park by, I would say, 10 a.m. We moved quick that morning.
Wow.
That is very impressive, Nicole. And that's a great tip also. If you're traveling and heading to the park the day of course, you'll be able to check your luggage with Bell Services, which we've discussed here on the podcast before. But having a to-go bag ready to grab out of that, whether it be your check luggage or your carry-on bag that you have with you that day before you check it with Bell Services, so you don't have to monkey around with trying to pull out the necessities for the park. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and at 10 a.m., that's probably when most people are arriving in general, and they did not just take a long flight to get there either. That's super impressive. All right.
Yeah,
So we saw
we're early risers. We're like rope droppers. So for us it felt a little late, but it was still good
Um,
to get there.
Slackers, you're such a slacker.
All right. So I know that this was in September, which is typically lower crowds. So how did the crowds appear on Main Street when you walked in?
Yeah, definitely. And that's part of why we choose early September to go. The two of us, we do this generally every year because we know the crowds are lower, kids are going back to school. And so, we generally enjoy it more, just it feels a little less crowded. I will say, when we walked in, we did walk down Main Street, we went through the confectionery. It did not feel like there were high crowds at all. It was very like relaxed, not a lot of people. So it was definitely enjoyable to just sort of mosey through as we got there.
That sounds nice. We all want that. I think that's the
Yes.
goal is have a relaxing Main Street experience because there's nobody else there. So, all right, walk us through what did you do at the Magic Kingdom that day?
Yeah, so we first decided, we checked the app. We saw that Pirates of the Caribbean had, I think, a 10-minute wait. So we decided we'd go over there, figuring that was pretty close to a walk on. Walked over there. We got in line and got right to where we could see the boats loading, and the ride went down.
No.
So we had to make a decision as far as, whether we would wait or not. We decided we weren't really in a hurry. We knew we had plenty of other time to ride. And so we decided to leave and go check out the Haunted Mansion instead. Those are two of our like must do's. So we walked over to Haunted Mansion to ride instead. While we were in line, it was starting to get closer to like an early lunchtime. We had been up very early. So we decided to place a mobile order for Columbia Harbor House while we were waiting, knowing that as soon as we walked off, we could say we were there and we were ready and then have like a quick bite to eat afterwards.
Well, that's a
So
good plan. I support that. I mean, if you would have just started with the Haunted Mansion, since it's the best ride in the park, you wouldn't have had that sadness with Pirates, but at least you made it there pretty early in the day. So Columbia Harbor House has that nice seating upstairs also. I think we talked about that on the podcast before. Do you remember what you ate?
I do, yeah. So we did eat upstairs there. We love that area there. It's generally like a quiet place to sort of get away. So we like doing that. My husband ordered the salmon, I think with some veggies and fries, a good mix. And then I do have celiac disease. I have a gluten allergy. I love going to Walt Disney World with my food allergy because I know how safe it is to eat there. And while mobile ordering in the app, they have a separate section for allergy friendly meals. So I can easily go to that section and scroll through, and they have them marked with which ones are safe for me to eat. So I ended up having chicken strips and fries because that's not something I get to eat very often with a gluten allergy. So I did splurge a little and have those that day.
So a few things on that.
Hmm.
I have heard from a few people with allergies that they actually think the allergy friendly chicken strips are better than the regular ones. Do you think that could possibly be true?
All I will
Because
say,
I love the regular ones. I love them.
they are delicious. They are really good. And I have had people in my party that don't have an allergy try them and really enjoy them. So yeah, that might be true.
I had mentioned earlier in the podcast that we just came back from a little weekend at the Jersey Shore, and it made me appreciate a little more how allergy friendly Disney World is. In my own immediate family, we do not have any allergies, any or dietary needs like that. But I do have a niece who has a pretty severe peanut and tree nut allergy. And it was tough down there looking for options that we knew would be safe for her. And it's something we've experienced there before. But thinking back to a few years ago when she was able to join us at Disney World, I could remember how relieved she was that she didn't have that burden on her. Do you typically have good luck finding things there that aren't bland and undesirable while still being able to take care of your allergy?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing that I love so much about Walt Disney World is the food and the food options. So to be able to go there and eat things that I know are safe, I definitely have a lot of options. I think, the menus are very clearly marked for all different allergies, common allergies. You always have the option to speak with a chef if you have questions, especially buffets. They do a really great job of having someone speak to you, or if you want your food prepared in a separate area other than the buffet, that's always an option. So I think being able to do those things, it really does make you feel safe. So I really enjoy it. And I have my certain go-to items when I go, as I'm sure everybody does, but I think I never feel like I don't have choices or don't have good options for food.
Okay, good to know. And I actually think if you wouldn't mind coming back to chat with us someday, we could probably do an entire episode just on your experiences with different options to accommodate allergies and dietary needs and that sort of thing because it seems just so common
Yeah,
anymore.
definitely.
And I think that would involve a cruise talk too, because Nicole has
Mhm.
been cruising with us before, and
Hmm.
I definitely, having sat with Nicole several times, know that Disney takes great care. And I can say it's not the regular chicken tenders, but I when we were at Walt Disney World in February, all three of us were. Nicole and I sat together at Bar Reva, and she got some kind of chicken Parmesan chicken tender that was gluten free, and those were very good at Bar
Yes.
Reva. Those were excellent. So she was very generous and shared those with us. So it was quite
Well,
a
I was not at your table with that particular group outing, and now I'm a little jealous. So this is on my radar now. I'm going to check it
yeah.
out. All right. So after Columbia Harbor House, where did you head then?
After that, we decided to walk through Fantasyland. So we rode Peter Pan. That's also another one of my must dos from childhood, such a nostalgic ride for me. So made sure we did that. And then the ride for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, or the wait time, I'm sorry, was I think 30 minutes, which, I feel like from our experience, that's not bad at all for the
Yeah.
middle of the
No.
day. So yeah, we figured we would just hop on that. And we didn't even wait that long. So that's another one that's really fun. We had thought that we would probably hop over to Epcot for the afternoon. So we decided that, that was kind of enough rides for the day. We had sort of wandered through the park a little bit. So we walked through the Main Street Emporium. We, sort of took a look, not buying anything, so we didn't have to carry it, but we just wanted to take a look for later to see if there's anything we wanted to come back for. And then we ended up taking the monorail over to Epcot. That was probably around 1 or 1:30 p.m. So we had spent a few hours in the Magic Kingdom and then made our way over to Epcot instead. We love to just walk around Epcot, like, I think as everybody does. It's just such a fun place to explore. We did end up walking towards the World Showcase, went to Mexico. We were going to stop at La Cava for a beverage as we were walking and saw that it wasn't very crowded. There were tables available, so decided to
Oh,
sit and
wow.
I know.
Well, I mean, when talking about crowd levels at the parks, I would say that's a major indicator right there if there's seating available at La Cava.
Definitely, and to walk up and have, a table for 2 available. So we stopped, we had a beverage, we had some chips and salsa and just kinda hung out. It is still really hot in Florida in September, so it's nice to build in, like, ways to take a break and sort of get out of the sun for a little bit, so that let us sort of, reset and just, have a little relaxing break there. After that, we did not end up walking the rest of the way around the World Showcase, we didn't make it too far just because we knew we were gonna be back to Epcot later, so we went through and did some shopping, just kind of walked around. And then at that point, I had gotten a text that our room was ready at Wilderness. So we decided to head back to the resort just so we could get settled and take a little break after our really early morning that day.
Do you happen to know around what time that was? I'm just curious as far as rooms being ready. I've had times that I've gotten there, and as I check in at the front gate, I'm magically getting a text to tell me it's available, and then other times I'm waiting hours and hours and thinking, "Do they have the wrong number? Why aren't they texting me?"
Yeah, I think it was about 3:30 PM. Yeah, I've definitely had that same experience. I did get a couple texts throughout the day to say, "Hey, we're still working on your room, but it's not ready yet." I think twice, sort of from 1 o'clock on, I got text to say, "We're still working on it." So I knew I would hear from them. I knew they were
Oh,
working on it. And so yeah, it was probably about 3:30 they let
okay.
me know it was ready.
Did you do online check-in or did you check in at the front desk?
I did. I always tend to do online checking. I like knowing that it's done in advance. And you do have the option, like if you have requests for your room, close to the elevator, higher floor, things like that at certain resorts. So I do like that option of putting that in there. But yeah, so that was already done. So when we got back to Wilderness, we took a bus back. And we did another, I guess, another indicator of low crowds. Almost every bus that we went on was empty. We were the only people. So that was a unique experience too. So we rode our private bus back to the Wilderness Lodge and got our luggage. It did not take long from Bell Services. And because I had already checked in, we had our room number and we could use the app for our key or our magic band. We just walked right there.
Very good. All right. Any dining reservations that night once you kind of relaxed a little bit?
Yeah, our plan for that night was to hang around at Wilderness Lodge. It's also one of our favorites. We really love it. And so we had planned to go to Geyser Point for dinner. I always try to make a stop, often if we're not staying there, but especially if we're staying there, try to stop and get dinner there. So we ended up resting for a little bit. And then they do have a walk up list that you can join through the app. So I joined that. And then it said, I think, a 15-minute wait. But I got a text almost immediately to say, we have a table for you, come down. So we weren't far because we were in our room. So then we just, immediately walked down there and there were plenty of seats available.
That's
So I
good.
know most of the rooms at Wilderness Lodge have two queen beds. They do not have the additional fold down single bed like many of the deluxe resorts have. They're a little bit smaller. The most unique thing about the Wilderness Lodge rooms to me that sticks out is the view, the various views that you can have. What type of room did you book for your view?
Yeah, so we had done just a resort view room, but we
Okay.
ended up with a pretty unique view. So from our balcony, we could see the Contemporary from the balcony, and the Wilderness Lodge has a little smokehouse where they prepare a lot of their food there. And so we could see, it was parking lot, but also we could see the little smokehouse. We could smell the smokehouse, which was smelled delicious. But we found out that we could see the fireworks from our balcony at night at the Magic
That's
Kingdom.
amazing. That's amazing. Okay.
Not bad
Very
for a
good.
resort view. So, okay, I have a question because resort view right now for a lot of the deluxe resorts, that's kind of the lead in category. Some resorts will call it a standard view, but they've really changed it with a lot of the deluxe to call it resort view now. I actually just read a discussion online about the smokehouse at the Wilderness Lodge and people talking about it, and some people saying the smell was so bad that they ended up requesting a different room, or some people saying, well, the smell just made me hungry. Could you smell it in your room quite a bit?
Definitely not. Did
Oh,
not I would not have even known it was there, except for we went out on the balcony and could see it. We were on the 4th floor, so we were higher up. I don't know if you were, further closer to the ground level, if you maybe would have smelled it more, but if anything, it smelled like a fire. It smelled kind of cozy and
yeah.
nice. So yeah, it did not bother us at all.
Setting too. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is good to know. That's good to know because that's honestly something I never would have thought about. Do I need to worry about where I am at the Wilderness Lodge if my room's going to smell smoky? But that's good to know that yours did not. Okay. So, Geyser Point, tell us about your meal there.
So again, with an allergy, they're very allergy friendly. They have a specific menu where they have items marked. I love the bison burger there. That's generally my go to. And they do have a gluten free bun. A lot of times, if I go out to eat, I can't eat any bread products at all. So the fact that they have a bun for me to eat a burger on feels nice. So I got that for my meal. My husband got the appetizer that's the charcuterie flatbread, which also looked delicious. Certainly not gluten free, so I couldn't try it, but we really enjoyed that. And we ended up sat and ate as we were sort of finishing up. A huge storm rolled in, as often does in the afternoons and evenings. So it just was torrential downpour. So we decided, you know what, we'll hang out, we'll have another drink and just sort of relax. As you know, most people that were there decided to just hang tight because it was such a downpour. So we ended up staying there for most of our evening just because of that, and then walked back to our room and called it a night because we knew we were going to have an early morning the next day.
Well, that sounds like a great first day, considering that was your arrival day. You got in a lot of things and covered two different parks for a bit. So that's great. So early day the next day. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the next day, we had tickets that evening to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I know you guys have talked about on here, party day. Do you go to the park or not? What's your choice? We love going to the Magic Kingdom on a party day just because, again, crowds were already low, but they're even lower. A lot of people don't go to the park or they go only for the party. So we decided we were going to get up and go to the Magic Kingdom. Just again, we love to just walk around and sort of enjoy the atmosphere, and figuring we could do it before the party, that's where we were going to spend our day, or at least the morning. We didn't quite make it for rope drop. Like I said, that's usually our move, but we didn't this day. We did have a little bit more of a relaxed morning. But we did get to the park by probably about 9 a.m. Knowing that the crowds were low, decided to go to Tron and try the standby line there. We did not purchase a lightning lane for that, so decided we would try the standby line, and we probably waited about 20 minutes, which again is really good for there. So we rode Tron, and then that happened to be the opening day of the Beak and Barrel that Friday. I had not been able to secure a reservation in advance. I tried and didn't get one. So we figured we would just walk over there and see what was going on, see what it looked like. It was opening at 10 a.m. that day. So we walked over. There were plenty of people waiting for reservations and a lot of cast members outside that were helping to answer questions. So we just asked, is there any chance you would have room for a walk up reservation? And they said no. Very nicely said no.
Not a chance, lady. And then they laughed when you walked away.
Yes, exactly.
Certainly not. Cast members would never laugh at guests, but I would have laughed at you as another guest if I heard you laugh. I would have said, ha ha ha.
And I knew that the answer was going to be no, but I was like, if I'm
Yep.
here, I'm going to ask and I'm
You
going to
have
try.
to ask. You never
Yeah.
know. You never know.
So they were helping people. They did say to us, tonight is a party night. We do have reservations available. There will be fewer people here. So keep checking. They just encourage us, things are moving around all the time. Just keep checking the app to see if you can get something. So after that, we went to Pirates because we were right there and we had missed out on it the day before. So we did get a chance to ride that. And then we decided to stop for breakfast. We over at Friar's Nook, they have some breakfast tater tots, which are really delicious. You could probably eat them any time of day. They have bacon, sour cream, cheese on tater tots. You can't go wrong. So, and those are allergy friendly as well. I guess one thing to note, sometimes at the quick service places, if you do order something with an allergy, they'll serve it to you differently. So it'll either be a different color tray or they'll put them in a cardboard box with a sticker on top and clearly marked. So you can always make sure, if it has a flag or there's some sort of differentiator so. So we did get those. They were served in a cardboard box with the sticker on them. Had our snack, and then we checked the app and saw that the wait for Tiana's was 15 minutes. And so we figured that was a good time to go over there. It was early enough in the day if we got a little wet, we didn't mind because we would have time to dry off. So we went over and rode Tiana's and then decided we would leave the park and take a little bit of a break. You can enter the park for the Halloween party at 4 p.m. So we knew mid-afternoon we would want to be on our way back. So we decided to leave and take a break earlier in the day than we normally would have. But we, on our way, decided to stop at the Polynesian quickly. That's another one of our favorite resorts. So we
Totally on the way. Totally on the
way. Why not? So we hopped on the monorail, went over there, and we sat at Tambu Lounge just for a few minutes, just again to cool off, just have a little bit of a break. It was not really busy there either. Ohana was very busy as always, but the lounge was not. So we got a chance to just sit there and again relax for a little bit, and then decided we would go back to our room at Wilderness, just again take a break and also get ready for the party. We did end up taking a ride share from there just because we didn't want to spend a lot of time taking transportation. It's so close by that it's, a less than 5-minute ride. So we decided to just call a ride share and go over back to our room at Wilderness.
good plan. So you mentioned getting ready for the party. Were you in costumes for the party or were you just freshening up before you went back?
We did. We don't go crazy costumes, but it's sort of you can tell what we are, a little bit more Disney
Okay.
bound style, if you will. So we were Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps from Zootopia.
That is very cute. If you'll
We,
send us a photo, do you have a photo? We'd love to put that up on our socials. That's super
Yeah.
cute.
yeah, definitely I can share. We the past couple years have done a sort of couples. Last year we were the rescuers, which was cute. So it was fun, and we saw a couple other Nick and Judys too. So we weren't the only ones walking around.
I'm always amazed because my family, we like to visit in September a lot as well. And it always amazes me, either if we're not participating in the party and we're leaving the parks, some of the costumes, which some of these people are amazing at putting costumes together, but some of them I want to say, did you check the weather app before you decided on this? It is 95 degrees outside. So I think bounding in the September and August parties is a fantastic idea because you can add that character flair without being weighed down by heavy costumes and craziness of that.
Yeah, we saw some King Tritons and some Mauis that had full on wig and beard and everything, and it just had to have been so unbelievably hot.
Just having hair in that time period is so hot, and then adding on a layer of a wig and everything. No, yeah.
Yeah. So while we were at the hotel, I guess, while we were waiting and taking our break and getting ready, was still checking the app for those Beak and Barrel reservations. And I happened to get one as we were waiting. So there was one available for the next day in the morning around 10:30. So I went ahead and grabbed that. I was so excited because that really was the one thing we wanted to do, knowing it might be difficult to do or we might not get to. So I was really happy to get that. So it kind of changed our plans for the next day. We had to hop around a little more than we had planned to, but it was worth it because that was really one thing that was important for us to do while we were there for the weekend.
So, real quick,
Excellent.
I've noticed you said, you did not buy Lightning Lane when talking about some of the individual attractions. Did you purchase it at all, like the multi pass or anything like that for your trip?
Yeah, so we usually do purchase Lightning Lane. I think, again, like, especially going with my kids, I really enjoy it because I do think it saves us a lot of time and it allows us to better plan for our day. For this trip, because it was just the two of us, we did purchase a single pass for Guardians of the Galaxy. And then we also purchased multi-pass for our last day at Hollywood Studios. That
Okay.
was the park where we had the most things we wanted to do. And we just thought for the sake of time, it would make sense to purchase the multi-pass for that day.
So at least for this, you could grab Beak and Barrel and not really, even though you had to shuffle around plans, it's not like shuffling around Lightning Lane, which would be very difficult to do this late in the game for you.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a good point. Yeah, it was close to our Guardians single pass, but we were able to sort of I'll explain when we get to the day, run around a little bit and still make it in time. So,
Okay.
wouldn't have been ideal. I wouldn't have planned it that way, but again, it had been so difficult to get the reservation that I was like, I'm gonna take any time that pops up right now and we'll work around it.
All right. So what time did you head back for the party?
We left Wilderness around 3 p.m. We took the boat over from Wilderness to the Magic Kingdom, often for the parties because they allow guests in at 4. The crowds start building probably about 3:30. A lot of people that are there just with party tickets want to get in and make sure they get their time, which absolutely I agree. For us, because we're annual pass holders, we were lucky that we could just walk over and use the entrance for day guests. We didn't have to use the specific party ticket entry. And so we went in early, knowing that we could sort of beat the crowd. And then there are separate areas once you get in, once it hits 4 o'clock and the party is starting, that you can find a cast member to scan in there. They'll scan your party ticket and give you the bracelet inside the park. So that's what we chose to do.
I want to
Good.
backtrack
Yeah.
just a tiny bit. You mentioned you took the boat over from Wilderness Lodge. So, if our listeners aren't familiar with that, there are boats that run back and forth from Wilderness Lodge to the Magic Kingdom, as well as another boat that will run over to the Fort Wilderness Campground and the Contemporary Resort and back to the Wilderness Lodge. We also have some construction going on in that area with the new hotel tower they are building between Wilderness Lodge and the campground. So I'm curious, Nicole, if you noticed that construction, if you like, how's it looking there? And did it interrupt any part of your stay?
Yeah, no, there was no interruptions at all. We could see the new tower. You can see it with the cranes being built. It's tall. They've done a lot of work on it. I think since the last time I was over there between, several months ago, between then and now, you can definitely see a lot of progress. So it's going up pretty quickly.
Okay, that's exciting. I'm always looking forward to seeing what they're doing next there. And like Rachel had mentioned, we really do love the Wilderness Lodge area. So I'm hoping they keep everything feeling like wilderness over there, but welcome additions and changes also. Uh, okay, carry on. You're at the park.
Yeah.
You got your
Perfect
wristband.
time.
Because we were entering early and like official party festivities, while you can get in at 4, they start at 7 p.m. So we knew we had a little bit of time. And so we usually try to schedule an early dinner reservation at that time, just knowing that we'll be in the park, we'll want to eat before the party. So we did make a reservation at Jungle Skipper Canteen. That's one of my favorites at the Magic Kingdom. I really like that for a sit down. The menu's a little different. It's not just burgers and chicken tenders, which are delicious, but it's a little different. So we had a reservation there about 4:30, so we had some time. We stopped at Starbucks for a little mid-afternoon pick-me-up. We went over that in that area and actually watched walked through towards the Hall of Presidents. There's a little porch there with some rocking chairs. So we sat there and just kind of had our coffee, and people watched and hung out for a little bit. It did look like there was rain coming in, so it was also a good place to kind of hang for a minute and just see if the storm was going to pass. Once it got closer to our dinner reservation time, the storm was kind of petering out, so we decided to walk over to Skipper Canteen. One of the things I love there is they have a secret menu item that's a Brazilian cheese bread that is naturally gluten-free, so allergy friendly. It's very delicious, served with like a cream cheese sauce and a chimichurri. I get that every single time I go because it's just one of my favorites. And then I get the taste like chicken because it is the name of the menu item. So chicken with like a chili soy glaze, some pickled vegetables, rice. It's really very delicious. So we sat in a room we hadn't been in before. I know there's sort of the room that has like the butterfly seat, like the map room, and then there's the main room, and we were sort of off in the other, I don't know if it has a name, the other third room that we sat in.
Gosh, it's been so long since I have dined there. I don't remember the room names either. I can picture it, but I don't know what it's called.
I have never dined there. I've always wanted to, but it's
Get
one of
out of here, Rachel.
no, but
Add that to the list. Are you
I
writing these
my
things
list. It's
down?
on my list, but it's one of those having some pickier eaters in my travel party. I think the menu kind of scares them away because they used to have some kind of like Dan noodles dish. I don't know if they still do because I love Dan noodles, so that was on my list. But yeah, I've got to add that one on. But that's good to know about the secret menu item. I get the Brazilian cheese bread quite often. I believe it's at Food and Wine Festival they have it. So and I did know that it was gluten free. So I think the menu on at Food and Wine does say that, but another friend of mine introduced the cheese breads to me a few years ago. So that is a very good item. But I had no idea there was a secret menu item there because I guess I've never been. So
Okay,
And
well,
you
next
have
time we're there, we're dragging Rachel into
right,
Skipper
we gotta go
Canteen.
there.
We'll put that
yeah,
on the list.
it's also, if you like Jungle Cruise and you appreciate their silly jokes and things like that, they're doing that throughout your meal. Excuse me. So I think like it's fun. It's a fun meal. I do get that, the menu may scare people, but there's like fried rice and noodles and other things like that. You can ask them, like, I don't like spicy things, and they'll adjust it. So I think there's a way to find something for everybody. It's really delicious.
Yeah, there's sangria, isn't there? So Rachel will be
How
okay.
did I go?
But even I eat there, Rachel, so you'll be good. I know you'll love it, but I get it. Maybe not the best choice for the kiddos. You have to have a particular palate there. So, but I think that's a smart idea, Nicole, to get something to eat prior to the party starting because you don't want to be spending the cost of a party ticket and then an hour into the party being starved and either needing to take time out of the party or continue and get hangry as the night goes on. So smart move having that meal before it officially kicks off.
Yeah, definitely. And so then by the time we finished that, we decided to walk back down Main Street. So when you walk in as a party guest, and I guess I'll say that the park closes to day guests at 6 p.m. So there is an hour between 6 and 7 where party guests are entering, but everyone else is leaving the park, but it hasn't officially started yet. So we were
Mhm.
in that hour. We decided to walk down Main Street, and they do, when you walk in, sort of funnel everyone to the right side to go into the party. So we went that way just because we knew that there's usually a DJ there. They had some cute statues of like Mickey and Minnie dressed in costumes. They often have characters there. We've seen like Cruella there. Talking to people as you walk through and start the party. So we just wanted to make sure, we kind of kicked off our evening that way. So we walked through there. It landed us closer to Tomorrowland. I'm walking through that side. And so they did have a station there where we could scan in and get our wristband. We hadn't done that earlier before dinner. So we did stop and get our wristband. You get a trick or treat bag. And they do have, for allergy friendly trick or treating, they do have a separate system for that. You get a separate colored bag. I did not do that this year, so I can only speak to the process last year. But what they would do is when you would walk up, they would give you like a coin, and you'd hold on to that and then could go in exchange for allergy friendly treats. They had a central area where you could go turn those in and then get your treats. So, depending on the type of allergy you have, it seems like they're pretty accommodating and have a wide range of options for that too.
That's good to know. I obviously I'm like Missy. We don't have allergies in our family, but I did know that they did offer allergy-friendly treats for families, so that's good to know, the process, and that's an interesting process, and I like that. I think for a child, that kinda makes it special, like, here is your special thing, and you get to go and turn that in later and get your
Yeah, and then you can still go through the trick or treat line with everybody else, right? You're still doing everything that, your family or whoever else you're with is doing. So I feel like they do a good job of making it feel inclusive too and not separated. Yeah. So we did that and then we were going to ride the people mover while we were over there, but it happened to be down. We actually learned later on that there had been, an electrical storm in the area and a lot of rides were down. We were walking through, and so it didn't really impact us too much. But when we looked at the app and saw rides were down, we kind of assumed because we were in that 6 to 7 o'clock hour, that's why that they were sort of, pausing between the day guests and the party. But People Mover was down, so we figured we would just sort of walk around. They do have the park lit up as it gets darker. They have greens and purples and orange, all kinds of spooky colors, if you will, not so scary colors, which is cute. And they do have at the party special character meet and greets, which some of those lines can get very, very long. The only characters that I really wanted to meet when we were there were Cinderella's evil stepsisters, Drusilla and Anastasia. We knew they were going to be out in Fantasyland around 7 p.m. when the party started. So about 5 till we walked over there. They can be kind of popular when they're walking around the park. They generally have a crowd following them. So I wasn't sure if it was going to take a long time, but we waited in line. They were out right at 7. We waited maybe about 5 minutes and I was able to get a photo with them. They were characters for sure. They were definitely in character. And so it was really, really fun. And the photos too, I'll send those in as well. They're
Nice.
very fun and
Yeah.
silly.
So Nicole mentioned the long character lines. The longest character line at those parties is going to be Jack Skellington and Sally. And we're talking people will enter at 4 and go to where they're going to be and start lining up because for some guests, if you wait until the official party time, that's might be all that you do that evening is wait in line for Jack and Sally. Now they've changed Jack's costume. Is this the first year he has the new costume?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, where he looks much more like Jack Skellington does, but that is by far the most popular one. So I'm glad that you were only had to wait 5 minutes for yours and you continue on with the party. I could not imagine spending that much money just to do one thing and that be a character photo. But if that's for you, that's for you. So
Yeah, exactly. And some of it, like I think, there's Tigger and friends and they're in costumes, which they're very cute. But people wait a long time for that. And also like, Mickey and Minnie and friends too. So it's cute. It's really special. You don't get to see them in their costumes very often. But for me, it was just kind of the one that I wanted to make sure that I got. And then that was the only character interaction that we did for the night. By the time we were done, it was, getting closer to 7:30. The parade was at 8:15, the Boo to You parade, which is my favorite parade at Walt Disney World. So we wanted to make sure we got a good spot for the parade. So we got popcorn, which is gluten-free in the parks. We got popcorn and soda and walked over closer to sort of across the street from the Diamond Horseshoe near the Hall of Presidents and where the entrance to the Liberty Boat was. And stayed on that side. The parade starts in Frontierland, so we knew we could sort of be on the earlier end of the parade. And we wanted to make sure that we saw the Headless Horseman because that's a really fun start to that parade. I think I've been to the party 5 times. I think this was the second time I got to see him just because if it rains at all, if the streets are wet for safety reasons, they don't have him come out. So we had spoken to a cast member earlier, even though it rained, she said, no, I think you're good. I think he'll be here tonight. So we made sure we got a good spot. So we just hung out. We had our snack. We kind of people watched. It's so fun to watch everybody in all their costumes and everything. So we just sat and hung out. And then we did end up seeing the Headless Horseman. He came through about 5 to 10 minutes before the parade officially started. He rode through. They dimmed the lights. And there's, little thunder and lightning as he comes through. It's a really, really cool effect and really fun to see.
yeah, and I think that's important to know too. He always comes through a few minutes before the actual parade starts. I've waited as long as 15 minutes, I think, in between before, but I think a part of that is to make sure that um, if the horse has any horse accidents along the way, it can be cleaned up. And I think there's an element of possibly not having the loud music going along too during that time with the horse going through. So keep that in mind if you are going to a future party of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, that there is a gap of time between there. So stay put where you are. Definitely see the Headless Horseman, stay put, and then you'll enjoy the parade.
Well, it may be one of those things, or it may be because it's the actual headless horseman and you just never know when he may or may not show up, Rachel, and it's very
That's
magical. So
it's just purely coincidence.
he's a real big fan of that parade.
Yes, yeah. He has to get a spot at the top of
That's
Main
right.
Street. He's got to go to the top of the train station and get his spot there. So,
That's right.
all right. So the parade.
So we watched the parade. It was great. It always draws a lot of crowds, as all the parades do. But this one's really fun, just because you get to see some characters, some evil characters, maybe that you don't normally see. Ursula rolled through. Constance Hatchaway from the Haunted Mansion rolls through. So it's pretty fun. You get to see a lot of different things that you normally wouldn't. So watch the parade. And because we were on sort of the earlier side, our plan was to then go ride Haunted Mansion because we were pretty close to there once the parade ended, for us at least, as it moved on. And so we went over to Haunted Mansion. Part of why we really like it during the Halloween party is because they do a special overlay. So there's a handful of rides that they will do like a special change for the party. So Space Mountain, for example, you are totally in the dark, pitch black. I did that once. I don't need to do that again. I think the teacups have special lights and music too. And so at the Haunted Mansion, as you walk in and you're sort of right before you're waiting to go in the doors, they had two actors that were out, ghostly actors. One was a butler and another was a woman out there sitting in the graveyard speaking to everybody as they went by. They were making jokes and commenting on people's costumes. And it was really cute. It was really fun to see as well. So we wanted to make sure we went over there and saw that.
Wait, do you remember?
I think we walked right up. I think,
Okay.
maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It was not long. And that's another thing about the parties too, that, if your goal for the party is to ride attractions, you can generally get a lot done because there aren't as many people, the waits are fewer. For us, I think, if we go with our kids, that's more sort of what our plan is. For the two of us, we really just kind of like the atmosphere and walking around and just enjoying it, seeing the lights and the music and everybody's costumes. It's just a fun experience.
Yeah. No, completely. But for the party itself, Haunted Mansion obviously is typically going to have the longest line. So I think hitting it right after a parade going through where crowds are still dispersed more is a great idea. But it seems like as the night gets longer, Haunted Mansion line gets longer too. So keep that in mind. Also, if you're going to go, Haunted Mansion should be on your list for a Halloween party, but the line does get a lot longer there because it's the Haunted Mansion. It's Halloween. So, all right. But yeah, I've seen at least the female actress. They've had her for several years out in the graveyard, and that's always fun because she does interact, and I think that's very special. When they bring out the actors and actresses, the cast members that are there for that purpose, it just makes the whole environment change.
It may be actors or actresses, but also, Rachel, it may be actual ghosts who
It
reside
might be.
reside at the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. If you're 5 and listening to this podcast, it's actual ghosts. It's absolutely fine.
Or 45. Or 45. I'm refraining from saying 6, 7 because I'm not 14. And if you don't get that, then you don't have a teenager. So we'll keep moving on. Just go. Just keep going. Okay. After the mansion.
After the mansion, so we decided to sort of walk around and maybe trick or treat a little bit. They do have several stations set up throughout the park and all the different lands that you can trick or treat. They do have big like signs, and there's a map where you can find them too. Sometimes earlier in the evening, the lines can get long. So, I've definitely heard people advise like, don't trick or treat early because then you have to carry all that candy around and wait in line. So, might be a good tip to go a little later. We weren't there for the candy, but figured, we're hanging out, we're participating, we'll trick or treat a little as we go through and then have some treats to bring home for our kids. So we did trick or treat our way a little bit through. There's one in McKeesville, her Magic, where they're playing like old spooky movies, which is cute. And sort of walked our way around. We ended up in Tomorrowland. The People Mover was back up and running, so we decided to ride that. I love riding the People Mover at night. So we did that. And then we had not really planned on seeing any of the stage shows or even staying for fireworks just because we've done it before. That is generally part of the most crowded area. And we just wanted to avoid it. So we, after having walked through and trick or treating, we kind of decided we were good. We had seen what we wanted to see and we're going to call it a night.
So do either of you know the fireworks? Is it still just a straight fireworks show or are there castle overlays now with the parties too?
I believe there's castle overlays for
Okay.
that. I think so.
Yeah, I think there's castle overlays for like everything. No, for
Everything now.
everything they do in
It's
front
not
of the
like
castle.
it
Pretty
does
much,
not really
yes.
there. The iridescent is not really there, it's just a castle overlord. All right, so was that the end of your party that night then?
That was the end of our party. We, had sort of checked off all the boxes of what we wanted to do. And so then decided we ended up taking a bus back to Wilderness Lodge that evening from the Magic Kingdom.
Okay, and then the next morning, I know you went back to the Magic Kingdom, obviously, at this point.
We did. But we had planned to rope drop Epcot before we had the Beak and Barrel reservation. That was our plan. So we just decided to stick with that, we were up early anyways. Let's go ahead and just head over to Epcot first. We did a mobile order for Roaring Fork at the hotel. That's the quick service there at Wilderness, just because we wanted to have a little something to eat and coffee. Besides the coffee in the room. So we did a mobile order right when they opened, and it was ready for us by the time we were ready and got downstairs. And so we were on our way to Epcot probably by 7:30 a.m. after, getting ready, eating breakfast, and then hopped on a bus to go. Like I mentioned, we did have a lightning lane for Guardians, but it was going to be after our Beak and Barrel. So we decided that we would rope drop Test Track. My husband had not ridden the new version of Test Track yet. I did get a chance to experience that earlier in the summer, which was super fun, and I wanted to make sure that he saw that. So that was our plan. When we got there, we could hear the cars going around, but they were saying they were not yet open. They didn't have an anticipated time of when they were going to open. So we had to make a decision of sort of what to do next. We decided it was kind of far to walk anywhere else aside from right there. So we hopped in line for Guardians along with hundreds of other people that morning and figured we'll use our rope drop time to ride Guardians again, and we'll get to do it twice. So we did. They started letting people inside, I think, right at 8 o'clock, which was the time that the park was opening. And we really didn't wait very long, maybe 20 minutes. There were a lot of people in front of us that had run there sort of right away, but we still did not wait long at all. And so we're able to ride Guardians. And I think we were in and out in probably 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And the
Okay,
song that you got was?
Song was Conga, not my favorite.
Okay. All right. Well, that's one of the songs.
But we knew we had another chance, so we were hopeful that we'd get a different one on the next one. And so then after that, we
don't
decided
say I don't get it, but
no.
whatever.
We decided to walk over to Test Track just to sort of see what the status was at that point. Again, we could hear the cars going around, and the cast members were letting people in the queue. The line was open, but they just kept saying, "We don't know when it's open. You're welcome to wait, but you might want to go somewhere else." And knowing that we had to leave pretty early to get over to the Magic Kingdom, we decided to just wait it out and see what happened. We stood outside for probably about 15 minutes, and then they started letting people in. We were keeping track of the time to say, okay, if we wait X long, we're going to go. But we ended up getting in. We ended up getting on the ride fairly quickly because not that many people had been willing to wait and queue up with it not officially open yet. So we did get a chance to ride that. And at that time, then decided, okay, time to make our way over to the Magic Kingdom. We took the monorail to the TTC. The monorail then to the Magic Kingdom was not running from there, so they were advising people to take either the ferry boat or they had buses running instead because that monorail wasn't running. We ended up, because there were big crowds, I think a lot of people sort of were just on their way into the park, we decided to just hop on the resort monorail and take that around and got to the Magic Kingdom in plenty of time for a reservation, which I think was like 10:40 that morning at Beak and Barrel.
So I want to make a note. You two basically did not sleep this entire trip.
Yeah, she's like, we're up anyway. We're up anyway. I guess because they never go to sleep.
No, we go to bed early. It's early evenings because then we're up early.
Impressed is what you said. You were already in the park, had a mobile order in the park, and it was before 8 a.m.
So we made our way to Beak and Barrel. It's right next to Pirates. They have a stand outside where you can check in. I did check in through the app as well, just to say that we were there and waiting. They brought us in right away at our reservation time. They had us seated in, if you've been to Oga's, and they have sort of the like large booths like that where they'll put multiple parties. They sat us in a party there. There was another couple that was already seated there. I would say it was probably at the time we got there, maybe like 50% capacity. It was certainly not full. And we were sort of, as you walk in, there's a large room with a communal table and the bar. There's a smaller room over to the left, and we were sort of over to the right. There were, ships in a bottle and bookcases with all kinds of details and knickknacks. And so As we sat down, the cast member who was our server came over. I can't remember his name, but he had a pirate name now. And he was wonderful. And so, very much in character, everyone there was really great about explaining the menu, told us get up, walk around. If you want photos, I'll take your photos. And so, there's one table that has, it looks like you're in jail. There's like a swinging door that's like a
No.
wrought iron door that he took us all over there and took our photos in it and stuff. So it was really fun. Everyone obviously who was there was really excited because it was, opening weekend, the first time everyone had visited. So it was really great.
So, for those of our listener friends out there who are not familiar, we are talking about the Beak and Barrel, which is a new experience located just outside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at the Magic Kingdom. It is a tavern type atmosphere with some small plates and some specialty drinks available for purchase. There is currently a 45-minute maximum and two drink limit for this location because, as Nicole has mentioned, it is very popular. As she did explain, it's similar to Oga's Canteen. You may not be guaranteed to get a seat. You may be at a standing location. You may be sharing your counter space with somebody else. So it's not really the kind of place you're going to go and sit and have a private meal. It's also, there's low lighting in there and it's a very high energy type thing. So if you have anyone in your party who may have concerns with low lighting or very energetic crowds around them and interactive experiences, this may be something that you'd want to hold off on for another time or have them plan something different with other guests of your party if you choose to go enjoy the Beak and Barrel. As Nicole mentioned, she was there in the morning. I believe 10 a.m. is when the Beak and Barrel usually opens most mornings. Sorry, just
Yeah,
wanted to give a little recap on that for any of our listeners who may not be familiar with it because it really is a brand new experience that just opened. So,
Yeah, and they definitely are keeping to the 45-minute time limit. So, we sat down, the cast member was great explaining the menu. Again, it's all new. So, they had several alcoholic beverages, all with fun pirate names. They also had some non-alcoholic specialty drinks too on the menu, and then like small bites, like Missy mentioned. And they have, I think, just beer and wine too, if you wanted. So, he explained the menu. He took our order right away. I tried the Plunderer's Punch. It comes in like a skull pirate head mug that you can take home with you. I felt like I wanted a souvenir from the trip, so I got that. And then my husband got the Barrels Ablaze, which is their version of an old fashioned. So, and they had, I think, margarita and things like that too. So they were kind of cute names on there. And then we did want to try some of the food. So we got, they have corn griddle cakes. We got the ones that were with Chipotle chicken. It's small. They're small, sort of like, tapas style plates that they have there. And so this was like two corn cakes, and in the middle, it was like chicken, cheese, some peppers, really delicious. I thought the food was great. Those were gluten free. I think anything on the menu I could have made gluten free. But again, the server was great at answering my questions, made note of the allergy, offered to have me speak with the chef if I wanted to. So, they took all the same precautions that they would at any restaurant there at Disney. He did come by about halfway through our time and said, okay, if you guys want another round, now's the time to do it. You only have 45 minutes. So we did order a second round of drinks just because we wanted to make sure we had our whole time there. And he was ready with the bill right before, so we could, make sure we took care of our check and we're on our way really within the 45 minutes. There's a cute parrot at the bar. I think her name is Rummy, his name, I don't know. That comes out and will like talk, and sometimes there's a song. It reminded me a little bit, if you've been to Trader Sam's, some of the interactions, and even Oga's is like this too. That the bartenders, if a certain song came on, they would encourage people to sing or things like that. So it's lively, it definitely is, but in a really fun way. I think it's good to know that going in. Like Missy mentioned, it's not a quiet, relaxing atmosphere, but very fun. It did remind me a lot of like a mix of like Trader Sam's and Oga's Cantina.
so
So
did you feel like it was too rushed or was the 45 minutes kind of enough? Or I understand why they're doing it and I appreciate that they're doing that, especially now with it being brand new and in such high demand. It gives more guests an opportunity to experience it. But how did that 45 minutes feel to you? Did it go by too fast? Were you ready to get out of there?
It maybe would have been nice to have a little bit more time to not feel like we need to make sure we're done.
2
But,
drinks for 2 drinks in 45 minutes
it's
is
quick.
that's that's a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and food too, right? So it's a lot, but they were really great as far as like, when you ordered, the service was very quick. So it's not like you were
Uh-huh.
sitting around waiting. It's not like we felt like, we were sitting during our time. It was enjoyable. It definitely was. It would be nice to have a little more time, but yeah, I understand why they're doing it.
Did you feel like it was I know it's lively, but as loud as Oga's? Because I think Oga's can get just extremely loud in there, and I don't know if it's because the space is pretty confined, and sound kinda carries and travels through there, plus some of the gimmicks that they do are loud gimmicks, so did you feel like it was loud in there too?
I thought it was loud, but I will say I didn't think it was as loud as Oga's. I think the
Okay.
music and everything in Oga's tends to get pretty loud, especially depending on where you're sitting. So yeah, it was definitely lively, but I would say not quite as much as Oga's.
Okay, that's good to know.
So big
Uh,
question is, would you plan another day around it? So you shifted this day around a bit just to be able to experience it. Was it worth that on a normal day, or was it only worth it for the first experience so that you could get yourself in there?
I think for us, yes, it definitely was. And I will say that we have an upcoming trip around Thanksgiving with extended family. And the number one thing on everybody's list is Beak and Barrel. That's what we planned our evening around one
Okay.
day because they really wanted to go. So I think, if you like pirates, I think for us, like I mentioned, that's like one of our go-to rides. We always have to do it.
Uh-huh.
So I think, if you like that, if you like Oga's and Trader Sam's and that sort of vibe, it's really fun. I think it's worth it.
Okay, good to know. Alright, so after did you head back to Epcot after Beak and Barrel?
We did, and we basically headed back to Epcot just to ride our Guardians of the Galaxy single pass, that Lightning Lane single pass that we had. So we did. We went back and rode. This time we got one way or another. That was our
Okay.
stop. So better than Conga. So we did that. We did not really spend much more time. We had plans at Disney Springs for dinner later that day. And so, we hung in Epcot for a little bit, did a little bit of shopping, but then decided to go back to Wilderness Lodge just so, again, we're up early, go back and relax a little bit before we have the rest of our evening. So we went back to Wilderness. I think we just took a bus back. And then our dinner plans were around 6 p.m. at Disney Springs. So we made a point to get there a little early. We took the bus there and left to get there a little early because I wanted to do some shopping there. There is a vegan, gluten-free bakery. Erin McKenna's NYC is the name at Disney Springs, which has just the best treats. You wouldn't know that they're vegan and gluten-free, but I always try to make a stop because that way I know I can grab some treats to bring home. So I wanted to make sure we got there in time to do that. And then I also stopped at the Ganachery because they have little chocolates like this stretching room at Haunted Mansion. They have those photos on there, which I just think are so cute. And so wanted to just stop and get a couple souvenirs and walk around. And actually, the weather was pretty cool. It was a nice evening, so it was like the perfect time to walk around there. Our dinner reservation was at Summer House on the Lake. Which I had not been there before, but had heard good things about, and so I just wanted to try it out. So we decided we would make a reservation. And usually when we travel to Walt Disney World, I'm a big sit down reservation person. I love having dining reservations. I love having everything planned out. Having a break to go sit at a sit down lunch or dinner when you're in the parks, I think for my family is really important. It makes a big difference. And so this was one trip where we actually did not have a lot of dining reservations, not the same as I normally would have. We decided it was just the two of us and we'd kind of wing it a little bit, which is not my style, but it worked out. And this happened to be one of the reservations that I had made in advance. I actually made it on Open Table instead of through the Disney app because there was greater availability there. And so it's a huge restaurant. It's really big. It's beautiful. We were not out by the water. We were sort of seated more towards the front of the restaurant. It was a little loud. It was noisy, but they have a lot of options on their menu. The service was really great. So we had a really nice dinner there.
Yeah, I've eaten there once before too, and we were indoors, but this was in November, so I would have much rather been indoors. But I if they bring back the drone show, which I hope they do at some point, that was an excellent spot to watch that from in there. But that was a good point that you made about Open Table. I love the Disney Springs restaurants. If you cannot find a reservation on the Walt Disney World app, check Open Table because they do post a lot of these restaurants are not owned by Disney itself. They are kind of leased out spaces. So they do have reservations on Open Table for a lot of these restaurants that you may not be able to find on Walt Disney World's app. So that's an excellent tip and excellent point.
Mhm. I think the both times I'm trying to remember how I made the reservation. I did do the Dream Set Soar dining package when that was available to be able to see the drones from out on the porch, and we had a whole night. It was actually a trip that we planned around being able to go down last, I guess it was summer of 2024, to be able to see the drone show. No doubt for me, that's the most impressive show I've ever seen Disney do, impressive nighttime show. And unless we're counting the Castle Dream lights or the Osborne lights, I think they're in their own thing there, their own category. But for modern technology capabilities, I guess, if we're comparing projections and drones, to me, there's no comparison. The drones are absolutely incredible to see there. It was such a fun show. I think it might have been through Open Table that I had to make that reservation also. So definitely, if you're visiting somewhere in Disney Springs and you're not finding that availability through the My Disney Experience app, then go ahead and check Open Table because you'll probably have some better luck there. Also, same with the Cake Bake Shop over at the
Mhm.
boardwalk. They take reservations through Open Table.
All right, so tell us about your meal.
So I ended up having a Cobb salad. Like I said, they had a lot of gluten-free options. So even I keep mentioning chicken, but they even had fried chicken, which you again don't see very often. So almost anything on the menu they had said they would make gluten-free. I'm pretty sure they had gluten-free pizza and other items too. So there was a lot to choose from, which was nice. I did get a Cobb salad. I love a Cobb salad. So that was really delicious. You could add all kinds of protein to it. My husband they had a special like prefix meal where you could get an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert for a set price. It was like a fundraiser that they were doing for charity at the time. So he tried the deviled eggs. That was his sort of must do there, is he wanted to make sure he had the deviled eggs, which he really loved. That's not my thing. I did not try those. And then I think had like a blackened swordfish, and there was a key lime dessert. So all very delicious. We really enjoyed it.
Did you do anything after the meal, or did you head back, get your early evening in so you could be
We
up?
did. We did. We decided we would just head back to Wilderness. So we took the bus from Disney Springs back to Wilderness Lodge. That was the night that we realized we knew we had seen the Contemporary out of our balcony. Had not been out there at night. We did happen to go out there and see that we could see the fireworks from the Magic Kingdom. So we turned on the sound for the fireworks show on our TV in the room so we could hear it there. And then we're watching, and, we could hear others on their balconies around us too. A lot of people were out there watching, and it was a pretty great view that you could see all the fireworks from there. It was really fun. So we just hung in our room, watched the fireworks there, and then went to bed.
And smelled delicious and
Yeah.
enjoyed your time. Okay, so you said, so I guess this upcoming day, this is your last day at Hollywood Studios. Okay, and you said you did have Lightning Lane multi-pass for this day, correct?
We did, yeah. This was the one day that we had bought the multi-pass, so we had already made our selections at the 7 days out. So we had Mickey and Minnie's, I think. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. We had Slinky Dog, Tower of Terror, and Toy Story Mania. Those were the three things that we chose. And because we had those already set and we were able to get them pretty early in the day, I got pretty good return times for those. We were going to rope drop Rise of the Resistance because my husband's favorite ride. We love doing that one. And we figured if we got there early, that would be our best chance to try to ride that without a really long wait. So we did a mobile order again at Roaring Fork at Wilderness just because, we knew we wanted to get out early. So stopped and got that on our way. There were a lot of people waiting for the Hollywood Studios bus at the resort, and the next bus, it said, was 20 minutes away. So we opted to instead call a rideshare. It's a pretty quick drive. It's not super expensive. We figured that would be our best way to get closer to the front as we're rope dropping instead of waiting for the bus with everybody. So I think we were at the park by about 7:45, 7:50, and they started letting people through the turnstiles right at 8 o'clock, and we walked over to Rise of the Resistance. But as we got there were cast members standing outside saying, sorry, we're not offering. Yeah, which, we knew could happen. But so we figured that, all right, time to pivot again. What do we do instead? So we made our way over to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I love that ride, but I also don't really want to wait an hour to ride it. So it was perfect for us to go. They were just letting people in with early entry, so we really did not wait long for that at all. We were done even before 9 o'clock, which was like park opening time for everyone else that didn't have the early entry perk. So we decided to go over to Ronto Roasters and grab breakfast wraps there since we had a little downtime before our first Lightning Lane multi-pass. They do make the Ronto wrap and the breakfast wrap on like gluten-free pita that they have there. Like I mentioned, it comes, in a box, sealed, marked, so you know that it's an allergy friendly item. We did a mobile order for that as well, just as we were making our way over there, just to try to save a little bit of time. So we sat, had our breakfast, kind of relaxed while it was still cool in the morning. And then after that, we had a multi-pass for Slinky Dog Dash. So we love to do that. Our kids love that one. And so we always try to make a point to ride. It can also be a long line and difficult to do. So that was a priority for when we had the multi-pass, to make sure that we got that ride. As we scanned in, I knew then that we had another option, that, we could choose another one. There weren't a lot of other items at Hollywood Studios that we wanted to do. And so we decided, well, maybe we could go to Animal Kingdom for the afternoon. We haven't been there yet this trip. So I was able to get a Kilimanjaro Safari multi-pass for after 2 p.m. that day. After that, we did some shopping, went down Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard. Hollywood Studios is one of my favorite places to shop. So love walking through there and seeing all the fun things that they had. We did walk through the Walt Disney Presents area. There's a lot of fun memorabilia in there. So we just took, a little quick walk through there. We did not stay and watch the movie or meet Ariel. We just kind of wanted to see all the displays in there. And then walked back to Toy Story Land because we had our multi-pass for Toy Story Mania at that point. Once we scanned in there, again, I knew I could use another multi-pass since we were heading to Animal Kingdom. I was able to get one for Expedition Everest for later in the day. That's not always one that I do, but we figured we're here. We hadn't been able to ride recently. We'll go ahead and try it out. And then at that point, we thought we had time before our Tower of Terror multi-pass. We were like, let's go see what's happening with Rise. Maybe it's back up by this point. So we walked over. The posted wait, I think, was about 2 hours. Yeah. Which happens anyways, but also if it has a delayed opening happens. But they did have the single rider lane open. So we decided we would do single rider. I had not done that on Rise before. And so you do miss a lot of the pre-shows. Your first time riding, I don't suggest you do the single rider because you want to see all of that. But for us, they really, you're in a line and sort of walk right into the room with all of the stormtroopers is where you catch up to the rest of the queue. We waited probably 40 minutes as single riders. We were in the same car, but each seated with a party of 3. So didn't sit together, obviously, because we knew that we would be separated, but still at least got to ride the ride at the same time, which worked out.
So I haven't done the single rider either. So you said you walk into the stormtrooper room where you catch up with the rest. Is there any kind of, and understand what I'm saying with this, any kind of presentation as you go in? Because like
Yeah,
you
like, do they
said,
give you the backstory or some kind of
yeah,
spiel, or you just get dumped in there?
open door is just like, oh, we're here now.
No, so you walk in and there's the area where you're outdoors before. I'm going to mess up all of the language. I don't know. Before you get onto the ship, basically, that
Yeah,
then
the
opens into the
transport or something.
Yes.
Transport vehicle? Yeah.
You walk past that outside. So you don't go on that transport vehicle. You walk past it through that sort of area, that open area there. And there's a cast member directing you into a sort of hallway that then ultimately goes to the stormtrooper room there. So they don't really give you any background at all, which is why I'm saying if you haven't done it before, you really don't want to do the single rider. You would miss a lot.
I think for the sheer fact alone of being in the transport vehicle and then opening up to the stormtrooper room,
Yeah.
yes, don't do the single rider if you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Have that experience. That's a wow moment that Disney created.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And we've done it a lot before, so we figured this time we were okay to miss it. You still get to walk through that room, which is really cool, but yeah, you do miss a lot of that. And then they have in the queue, everyone's on one side, all the single riders are on the other, and they just sort of call you in as they need you to fill in the parties to make sure that they have like the parties of 4 for the ride vehicles. So yeah, I thought that was a good way for us to do it and not have to wait 2 hours, which was nice. And then after that, we had a lunch reservation for the Hollywood Brown Derby. I love Brown Derby. I feel like, I love to go there.
Did you get the
The
Cobb salad?
lunch I did.
When you
Right.
mentioned earlier that you had gotten the Cobb salad, I thought, oh, I bet she gets the one at Brown Derby too. And I didn't even know you were going there on this trip. So that's funny.
I do. I also love the Cobb salad at Cake Bake. So,
Okay.
a variety. So yeah, I always get the Cobb salad. I love it. Cobb salad with a side of French fries. They can prepare both allergy friendly, which is nice. They have gluten-free bread too. So they bring bread to the table, but I have separate rolls that are gluten-free. And a lot of the sit-down restaurants at Disney have that too, which are nice. So we had an early lunch at Brown Derby. took a little bit of a break, relaxed, and then we had a Tower of Terror multi-pass after that, which maybe not the best ride right after lunch, but that's how the timing worked out. So we were close by. So then we walked over to the Tower of Terror and rode that. And then kind of we're done with Hollywood Studios for the day.
And how did you get to Animal Kingdom from there? Did you take a bus
We
or
did. Yeah,
okay.
we just took the bus. So it's not a far ride. We have had times where we've taken the bus from there to Animal Kingdom and gotten stuck in some traffic. We did not have that today, so it really was a pretty quick ride. We were to Animal Kingdom by about 2 o'clock in the
Okay.
afternoon.
The third lightning lane?
I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't because we hadn't quite gotten through the rest of our plans for the day. I wasn't sure what we were going to want to do. So we got there and we went straight to the safaris because it was time for us to use our multi-pass. I love the safaris. I think it's so fun. We got to see Tucker, the baby giraffe, who I hadn't seen yet. He wasn't out when I was there before. So cute. He was kind of hiding in a corner, but we still got to see him. And then after the safaris, we went over to Expedition Everest, rode that. I think I'm probably good on that for a little bit. I can take a
Okay.
break from that after this time. And then we had some time. We were kind of hanging out. We thought, let's join the walk up list for Nomad Lounge. We love going there. The food is good. I feel like they have gluten-free churros, which I love. So we thought that that would be a good opportunity to join the walk up list. When I checked in the app, it said for a party of two, about 40 minutes. But we got a text to say our table was ready in probably 15. We really did
Okay.
not have to wait very long at all. And we made sure when we joined the walk up list that we were close by in the area. We knew we could be called back at any point in time. So we did make sure that we were close by, but really didn't wait long at all and had a table inside, which we usually don't. Normally we end up sitting outside. So it was nice. It's, very air conditioned.
Mhm.
It was hot out that day. So it was nice to go and sit inside there.
Do you remember what you had there? That's definitely one of my favorite places to go on property.
Yeah. Like I said, I had the churros. So those are gluten free always. And they were served with like one was chocolate, one was like a vanilla cream sauce. Sometimes they'll have like a seasonal dip, but this time they didn't, just vanilla and chocolate, which was still delicious. And I love the Hightower Rocks, which is like a watermelon margarita that they have there. So that was it. We knew that we had like eaten not that long ago at Brown Derby. We maybe were going to eat again later. So just had a quick snack there and just use that time to relax and sort of reset a little bit. But as we were there, we were deciding, what's our next move? Where are we going to go next? And we had not made it all the way around the World Showcase at Epcot. So we decided we would take a bus and go to Epcot after that. We did the two rides we wanted to do. We got to visit Nomad, and that was kind of it for our Animal Kingdom visit.
That's still I mean, you've already had a pretty full day. I'm impressed already. So, okay, so you finally made it back towards World Showcase.
We did. So we walked around because it was food and wine. There was lots of food booths. I think the later it gets in the day, it gets crowded. So there were a lot of people there. The lines were pretty long. They do have, as far as like allergy friendly dining, they do have a special guide that you can use to see, depending on your allergy, where you can eat and what you can have. There aren't as many options. Not every food booth has an option, at least for me, with my allergy that I could eat. So I was kind of there to just like enjoy the atmosphere. My husband really wanted to try in the Americas Pavilion. There was a seafood roll that was on his list. He wanted to try. So we did make our way around there so he could try that. And then, we can't go to Epcot without riding Living with the Land and Soarin'. So we went over that way and decided to ride those two as well. And we were done probably by 7:30 p.m. It had been a long day. That's not usually how we do it. We don't usually go straight through the day. We were impressed with ourselves for that. So we decided to just go back to the hotel at that point. We knew we could see the fireworks out our window. We did a mobile order from Roaring Fork again, just to get like a quick snack since we didn't have like an official dinner. So just, ate in our room and watched the fireworks out of our balcony and kind of used that as our way to enjoy like the last evening that we had.
Wonderful. All right. So, and then the next day, I'm guessing just an uneventful, sad, get ready, get packed up, and leave day.
Yeah, our flight was at, 10:30, I think, in the morning, so we really didn't have a lot of time other than packing and saying goodbye to wilderness. So yes, sad to leave, but we really did have like a packed few days. We did everything that we wanted to do and then some, so we had a really great trip.
Sounds like it for sure. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. And we'll definitely have to have you back and do an allergy episode sometime in the future because that is extremely important for guests to know that Walt Disney World, the Disney company in general, is very conscious and aware of those issues for people and guests and wants to make this the most enjoyable trip possible for them. So thank you again, Nicole. And we'll be right back with our top five.
In today's top five, we are going to be discussing the top five multi generational activities at Walt Disney World. So, we know of a lot of families who are fortunate enough to be able to travel with small children and parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and guests of all ages. So, we each compiled a little list of our top five things that we recommend doing if you're there for that type of a trip. So, Nicole, please be our guest and give us your number five.
Yes. So I based all of these on my personal experience. We travel a lot in like a multi-generational group. So these are the things that work for me and my family. I'll say that
Okay,
caveat.
that's exactly what we're looking for. Perfect.
So my number five are shows in the parks. I
Mhm.
think that's a really good way to sort of something for everybody, gets you out of the heat sometimes too, or the rain, if you will, but it's fun. I feel like, they make sure that the shows are tailored to little kids as well as, older adults. Anybody can participate. There's often singing, music, all of that. So we really like to make sure that we hit certain shows when we're there at Walt Disney World.
It's a
Very
great one.
good.
Yeah. So my number five, I said visit the Seas Pavilion with Nemo and friends because there's so much that you can do. You have a ride going into it. You have the aquarium itself to go and explore. There's Turtle Talk with Crush that is very multi-generational friendly. Even though the kids participate, if you've ever seen like kids say the darndest things or anything like that, it's just a continuous episode of that really with children. So it's a lot of fun for all families. Us there is a restaurant attached to it as well if you have a dining reservation there. So you can spend quite a bit of time. Very family friendly environment and location. Missy, what do you have?
So mine is a little bit along the lines of what Nicole had suggested, but I went a little more specific with it. So mine is to visit the laugh floor at the Magic Kingdom. Uh, and if you can be a little bit strategic and maybe try to get grandpa or dad or one of the kiddos or anybody who's willing to play along and have a fun time seated at one of the lamps that they have, that's typically where the cameras are located. It might give you a little bit of an extra chance of being selected as somebody to be up on the screen. And like Nicole, I picked this because it's something that my family has experienced. And I think we will always remember a time that we were there for a holiday trip and we decided to stop into the laugh floor because it's somewhere where you can sit and take a break, right? It's not really the top attraction everyone's running to at the Magic Kingdom. But it just happened that on that night, they chose to speak to my daughter and ask her some questions. And my dad happened to be one of the guys they were kind of poking fun on the screen. He takes what we call his Animal Kingdom satchel with him anytime we go to Disney World. It's like a crossbody bag that is khaki and something they sold years and he's probably had it at least 20 years from Animal Kingdom, and he had it on and they joked that that guy was wearing a seatbelt for the show because it looked like he was belted in. It was just silly, and it's something that they still kind of laugh and joke about. It's been, I think, 6 years now since we had that experience that night, but it's just something fun that you can do with the kiddos and maybe get everybody interacting in and having a few laughs.
I love that show. It's one of my favorites.
All right. So moving on to number four, Nicole, what do you have for your number four?
So my number four is a little bit of a treat. I said visit the spa.
Oh,
We had a multi-generational trip a few years ago where we went. So my kids were there, grandparents were there. And we decided we would book appointments at the Grand Floridian Spa. So they do have children's services there. We were specifically going to get our nails done. So we had kids manicure appointments and then the adults got pedicures. It's all in the same room there, at least at that spa. So we were the only ones in there. It was all of us and just chatting with the cast members about our favorite rides, talking about our plans the next day. It was a nice way for us all to kind of hang out and have some downtime in a different environment. And it felt very special sort of being at the spa for the afternoon.
Nice. Um, so while not at the spa, you go past the spa. I said resort hop on the monorail loop or the Skyliner. I think both of those are great ways to spend some time together as a family and see different parts of the property that you might not typically see otherwise. But um, and plus, children really love rides on the monorail and the Skyliner as well. There's so much that you can see. And that's an experience. Those two are experiences in and of themselves.
Okay, I agree with that. That's a good one. I'm a fan of resort hopping and visiting other resorts and enjoying that. So, okay,
What do you
moving on to my number 4. I have the parades. If you have some time to schedule your day around seeing one of the parades at the Magic Kingdom, whether it be in the afternoon or the new Starlight Nighttime Parade, that's a fun experience for guests of all ages. And you can really be anywhere along the parade route, but if you can get yourself within view of the castle, that might make that parade a little bit more magical. So it's something maybe you can send one of the more capable adults to run off and get some snacks or some popcorn for everybody to sit and enjoy while grandma and grandpa or the kiddos are waiting there on the curb or somewhere on a bench for it to start. And I just think it's a perfect activity for all ages.
Okay.
So that takes us to number 3. Yeah, Nicole, what's your number 3?
Yeah, so my number 3 is going to, like, character dining or themed lounge. We talked about Beak and Barrel in this episode. That might not be for everybody, like we mentioned, because it's a little lively and loud, but, going to Ohana for a character breakfast or even Topolino's, if you're able to do that, it's really fun. They have nice music, the kids get to meet the characters, the food is generally very good, and so I think that's a good way for everybody to spend time together, sort of no matter your age, you'll enjoy it.
So my number 3 is along those lines. I said a dining reservation character. I said or Space 220. I think that's another fun one for entire families. The first time that we went to it, my husband was not with us. We were actually on a multi-generational trip, and I was with my sister and her family, my 2 oldest children, and my parents. And after that, when making the dining reservations for our next trip, I asked my son, I said, "Is there anywhere that you want to go?" And he said, "Yes, I want to go to the space restaurant and take dad there." So that really stood out to him as a kid. And I think that's a fun one. Even though you don't have the characters, you do have a lot of interactive experiences there with the screens and everything. Missy, what do you
Okay.
have?
So moving on to my number 3, we're on here. Okay, so I went again with another specific attraction that is not one of the most popular ones in the park, and it's Enchanted Tales with Belle. So I feel like an interactive experience like that can really be something that you have the opportunity to create an exciting memory with, because you never know who the cast members are going to choose to ask to be participants in the show, to volunteer and take part. And if grandpa happens to end up there as, I don't know, Cogsworth, and or your little one ends up being the beast. Like, it could go anyway. You just never know. And I think it's a really unique thing that doesn't really get as much credit as it should. It's a really cute attraction experience, and I think it could be fun for families.
For sure. Yes. Okay. Nicole, we're taking down to your number 2.
Number 2, I said pool time at the resort, but specifically, we one time decided to get a cabana. We were staying at a resort that had pool cabanas there. And that was a really great way for us as like a large group to hang out at the pool together. We had some shade, we had loungers, there were like little snacks, and we had a fridge with like some water and everything. It just was a nice way for the kids to run around, do the slide, do what they wanted to do. But then the adults also had sort of a cooler shaded spot to hang out, and we were still all together.
Nice.
It's
I've
a
I've
great
never
idea.
done that before. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so for my number 2, I said stop for some photo pass photos or even book a capture your moment session. I think capture your moment is not logical for every single trip, but if you have a multi-generational trip with people that you may never have all together in the parks at the same time again, book that session. They are up to 8, so if you have more than that, 8 guests, if you have more than that, book 2. But I think that's a really fun way, something that everybody can do, help continue and create those memories that will last a lifetime for you.
And if you don't have the time in your schedule to schedule in one of the capture your moment sessions, I mean, just take advantage of the photo pass photographers to get you all in the shot so that you have
Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
I agree.
Let
That's
somebody
a
else
that's a
take
good
a
one.
photo of you in front of Cinderella's castle. Let that
Right.
happen.
Absolutely. Yes. And the PhotoPass photographers will be happy to use your camera as well. It doesn't have to be a situation in that you're purchasing the photo from Disney if you don't have Memory Maker already. They will happily use your camera or your phone to take that photo so you have that memory. So I like that one, Rachel. So my number two, something you guys already touched base on, but I wanted to leave it higher on my list than bump it back where you had it, is the character meals. Because I feel like there are so many character meal options that include characters still, like Mickey and Minnie, that were very possibly part of Grandma and Grandpa's childhood as well. And that's something that I think they'll be able to relate to on a special level with the kiddos and not only enjoy being there themselves, but also seeing the kids experience it. So character meals is pretty high on my list. Now, I don't think you necessarily need one every day, but if grandma's favorite character's Goofy, get yourself a breakfast at Cape May Cafe and experience that with Goofy, not Goofy, Goofy outfit around there. It's fun. I think we forget sometimes that grandparents and parents can be kids too, and I think a character meal gives you a great opportunity to do that. Your next one, Nicole. What are we on? Your number one
Number
already?
one.
Wow, we're
Number
just
one.
flying through these. Okay, what's your number one, Nicole?
My number one is a holiday party. I know I've talked about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, but we've also done the Very Merry Christmas party as a smaller family. And we actually coming up are going to do it this year, multi-generational. We have a larger visit planned at the end of the year. And I think it's just a really fun way. There's something for everybody to do. It's a fun way to experience the parks in a little bit of a different way. There's trick-or-treating at Halloween, or you can go get cookies and hot chocolate for the Christmas parties. We generally dress up or dress in themes. So, we're all seven of us together. And I just think it's a really fun way to experience something special. Certainly like a lot of very fond memories that I have of going to the holiday parties.
That's a good one. Yeah. And then grandparents can take the little ones back to bed early. So
That is one way to do it. All right, Rachel, what's the top of your list today?
Okay, so this one's broad, but I said plan at least one attraction together at each park. Sometimes when you're taking multi-generational trips, my kind of viewpoint on that is if everybody is paying for their own trip, enjoy your trip. You're not always going to spend every single moment of every single day together, but plan one attraction together. Most of these attractions that fit larger groups, a lot of these do have an on-ride photo, so that's always a good memory to have too, where you've got your entire family in that photo, no matter what it may be. But plan one attraction together. You'll probably do more together, but make sure you fit in at least some time together in each park, riding something together.
Good idea. Good plan, Rachel.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of options for that. Okay. So my number one, very specific. Standing in front of Cinderella Castle to watch the fireworks. I think that is probably the quintessential thing that people think of when they think about going to Disney World. We see the opening of every Disney movie that we see with that castle with the fireworks going on in the intro to the movie. It's something that whether you are a small child or an older grandparent, it's something that you've heard of that exists. On a recent multi-generational group trip we had, I guess I would call it, we were down there for my daughter's high school band, and we're fortunate enough to have 23 people with us, 23 people who went specifically to see my kid perform, not like just the band. Like we had everybody decided, okay, this is when we're finally going to do it. I'm the big Disney fan in my family. We weren't a family that grew up with everybody going, and we got my side and my husband's side of the family. We were all there. And my mother-in-law doesn't like traveling. She likes to be home, and she's not a big Disney fan either. She's not against anything Disney, but she's not somebody who's been a Disney fan like I am. And being able to experience that with her, it was her first trip there. They had a lot going on that year. It was the year before their 50th wedding anniversary, so that gives you an idea of their age. So it was their first trip, and I could remember her seeing the show and just turning to me and saying, everyone should get to see this at some point
Oh,
in their life. To me, that was something for like her to be able to experience it with the grandkids and have everybody there was a really special thing. So I think if you're going to do one thing with the whole family when you're there, it's to get yourself a spot and see those fireworks over the castle. And that wraps up our top 5 for today. And I guess we can get right into our listener question today. So our listener today wrote in asking us about knowing that they see some celebrations celebrated for people and how do you go about letting Disney know that you have a celebration? Is that something that you can do ahead of time, Rachel? So, what is your answer for that?
So the absolute easiest way is if you book through a travel agent, let your travel agent know. Your travel agent will notify Disney for you. You can also call into the reservation center and ask them to have it noted. They have actually 8 different categories that they can note for you, from first visit to reunions, birthdays, anniversaries, if you're celebrating your honeymoon or a wedding itself, a personal triumph, and graduation. So they do have those categories they can put on there. If it's a birthday or an anniversary, they'll ask for the date as well. And they usually, on that birthday date, will you'll go in and your TV will say happy birthday, whoever. So that's another special thing that they will do for you. But be sure to go by the front desk and get that celebration button, and the cast member will write on the button what you are celebrating. This is really special for children, for if you're celebrating a birthday for them, and it does not have to be that specific day, but if it's around that time, get them a birthday button. Cast members will go out of their way to wish them happy birthday, maybe even sneak a few treats to them. We've had that happen in the past, gotten some free cookies for my daughter's birthday. But those are probably the 2 easiest ways to notify that. But I know, Missy, you had something else to add to that too.
Yes, I think in addition to celebrating at the resort, you also have opportunities to celebrate with different dining experiences. And whenever you make a reservation through the My Disney Experience app or on the website, it will ask you if you're celebrating anything, and you can purchase a cake separately. I think it's $39.99 is the cake option. So if you wanted to celebrate in a way that you have a special Mickey cake at a meal, then that's an option to add on too. So I think that was a pretty good question. So thank you to our listener for sending that in. If you have a question for us, you can email it to us at a disneylife@storybookdestinations.com or podcast@storybookdestinations.com. You can also contact us through our various social media channels. We have a Facebook group called The Disney Life. We have a TikTok and Instagram, a Disney Life Pod. So we're out there in a few places if you'd like to chat with us through those means. And we do post a couple things there throughout the week between episodes with some different clips and info for you. Moving on to my tip of the week this week. And we did talk a little bit about Lightning Lane during Nicole's trip report. And my tip for you is to not wait until the last minute to plan your Lightning Lane. So if you're a Disney Resort guest, you can book them 7 days in advance, which means exactly 1 week. Say you're arriving on a Saturday, the Saturday before you can book them. But you can actually see the pricing for your days up to 3 weeks in advance, 21 days in advance. So you'll be able to plan out ahead of time based on pricing so that you can budget for it. And that gives you a good 2 weeks to decide, is that something that you think your family needs to invest in, or will you be able to schedule around without needing to purchase the additional Lightning Lanes for your trip? So that'll do it for today's episode. A special thank you again to our friend Nicole for joining us today to talk about her trip. Thanks so much for being here, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate all of you listening. And again, if you are interested in being a guest on the podcast to chat about a Disney trip of yours, you can email those same email addresses I mentioned earlier, which are a disneylife@storybookdestinations.com or podcast@storybookdestinations.com. So thank you so much for listening and have a great day.